Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. And if David Pelkey will come forward, invocation, appreciate it.
Let's bow our head for a word of prayer. Lord, we just come to you tonight with a heart of thankfulness and gratitude for your goodness and favor upon the city of Broken Arrow. Lord, tonight we ask for strength, for guidance and wisdom, and the vision and plans that the council has for the city. And we ask for the unity and excellence as they're carried out by all the faithful servants here today. Lord, we ask for your continued protection over this city, for its first responders as they're daily watching over Broken Arrow. And Lord, we just ask for your grace and mercy to fall upon this meeting and each one of us here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
Pickle.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Wimpy.
Okay, if you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I appreciate it. Salute. Pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess they just decided this was my busy night. So I can go from there. Okay, our next item is item 5, is the consideration of the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as it stands.
Second. I thought you were going to pull something off. That's what I was waiting to see if you
No,
were.
I'll just give everyone an opportunity.
Okay, we had a motion and a second, and it all passed. The consent agenda did. There was not anything pulled from the consent agenda. Next item would be the public hearings, appeals, presentations, recognitions, and awards. The first one is Rocky Hinkle's going to take from this, I believe. And there he is, standing there.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of council, Rocky Hinkle, Community Development Director. PUD 1814-2024 is a request for a minor amendment to PUD 1242-2023 for the Antler Falls single-family residential development on 45.84 acres. The property is located on the southeast corner of Houston and Midway. This development has a maximum of 160 lots served by gated private streets. During the meeting held on December 19, 2024, the Planning Commission recommended approval of 3-2 of PUD 1814-2024. The existing PUD setback would not change, but 20% of the structure's sidewalls can bump out 2 feet into the side setback. This appeal has been requested by the applicant to increase the percentage to 35%. Per the applicant, they are requesting an appeal in order to request a corrected and accurate condition. The setback to remain 9 foot by 1 foot, with an allowance to project no more than 2 feet over the setback for up to 35% of the length of the structure. No one spoke during the public comment period. Staff recommends you consider the appeal of applicant to amend the Planning Commission approval, and the applicant is here to address this further.
Okay. The applicant would come forward, please.
Good evening, members of the council. Justin Bruin, Walls Design Collective, representing Brad Hoffman, Hoffman Homes. So the original PUD for this property was approved back in 2023. And after discussions with staff, let me back up. The design of Antler Falls is from the same developer as Rabbit Run, Lakes at Rabbit Run, and it's the same style community that would be intended for this PUD area. In fact, yes, one of the exhibits we have up right here kind of shows the general look of the structures. We were approved for up to 180 residential lots on the subject property, which is approximately 46 acres in size. Everything was approved, preliminary plat was approved, and the property owner, Brad Hoffman, spoke with city staff, and nothing is different than what happened at Rabbit Run or Lakes at Rabbit Run as far as the design of the property. What's very unique about this type of residential development is that instead of a typical 5 foot by 5 foot setback that you normally see on residential property, What is typical is a 9-foot and 1-foot setback. So 10 foot still remains between each residential property. Just a little bit different look at the property. Basically, what the theory is behind that is the house being scooted over closer to the property line helps avoid, gives you a bit more space within your yard on one side, because typically you're going to have that 5 foot of, I won't say useless, but less desirable space that would be directly adjacent to a property. They also don't include side yard fences for these types of sites, so it's more open format, because it does have a property owners association that maintains the entire grounds. So to cut to December of 2024, after meetings with city staff, the conversation basically circulated around in Rabbit Run and Lakes at Rabbit Run. Currently, the bump outs that go into the setback, these would be architectural features, including Murphy beds and bay windows. And honestly, fireplaces would be considered architectural features as well. These had been approved. This would look exactly the same. But between conversations with staff, the idea was to clean up the language to where it made it easier for the building department and city staff to review it and go through the cycle, especially with 180 residential lots. So what we presented to the Planning Commission was a 7-foot, originally a 9-foot and 1-foot setback with 2-foot overhangs being allowed. We came back with the PUD amendment based on those conversations with staff to look at a 7-foot, 1-foot setback, as this does meet the building code for residential properties. However, it would account for that 2-foot bump out that would go across the entire property. So we came before the Planning Commission with that specific request in mind, and during the meeting, questions were asked as far as, well, how much of the property would actually bump out? And we were essentially stating that, well, for like a Murphy bed, that might be 20%, but that doesn't necessarily include the fireplace and other features that would be included. But what we requested during the meeting was 30%, but listen, we haven't gone back and looked at the architectural design to see exactly what that number would be. A motion was made for 20%. It got a little bit confusing whether the 7-foot, 1-foot was approved with 20%, or if it was the 9-foot, 1-foot. So what we are trying to clarify and make known is our request is for, based on how the Planning Commission saw it, and what we're looking for is 9-foot, 1-foot with a 35% allowance for bump outs to go 2 foot over the setback. So would you mind going to, I believe it's the one right above this particular sheet. So what you're seeing along the very top portion is an example of a typical home for Hoffman Homes. So what you're seeing there is I'm having a hard time reading it, but it would be likely a bay window, a Murphy bed space, and a fireplace. So 35% would assure that all of the building designs that were used in Rabbit Run and Lakes at Rabbit Run would be used identically, but be approvable within this new development. With that, I have nothing really to add. Mr. Hoffman can certainly, if you'd like, speak a bit more on his particular designs.
Any questions?
So for clarification, what did Planning Commission approve?
So it got a little muddy, so we had them clarify the last Planning Commission, and it was basically a 1-foot, 9-foot setback up to 20% of the structure.
So you and the staff and the Planning Commission is in agreement with this, is that correct?
With the 35%?
With the appeal, whatever he's appealing there? Yes.
Yeah, we will support whatever you guys decide.
But we want to know what you think.
Right. You guys would be the ones going out to
So-
inspect it and looking at it?
Yeah, we would support this because this helped clean up the lakes at Rubber Run, because when the permits were issued, they were not caught From my understanding that they had a Murphy bed, and so that fell into another category. So this would help clean up the language when issuing those permits.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Is there anyone here to speak for it or against it? Anyone
Anybody
signed
here?
up?
No one signed up to
Okay.
speak in
Okay.
either way. And no one spoke at your meeting before
No.
either, did they?
Again, clarify, we're voting on the 1 foot 9 foot or the 1 foot 7 foot?
The 1 foot setback, 9 foot setback, up to
Up to
35%.
30. Okay. Okay.
I have no questions. You all have any other questions?
It's clear as
Okay.
mud now.
Which one of you is going to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 25-167.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and a vote. And it did pass. Okay? So your appeal did pass, okay? Thank you very much. Okay, item 7B, do you guys want to hear that, or do you want to skip it? 'Cause so far-
I'm excited to hear it.
Kind of important.
Item 7B is something we're going to be talking about a lot this year, and that's the city manager is going to speak on the general obligation bond package.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. Good evening, and I do appreciate that. As I mentioned last meeting, and with your permission, I'd like to put just a short update on all the future city council meetings with regard to the next general obligation package. And because council's heard this probably 11 times, I think it's important that while I'm certainly talking to you for input, I do want to make sure that the citizens that are here tonight, because I see a lot of new faces, and those that are watching have a good idea, because there's going to be a lot of communications coming out. So if I can just step back and just share that last year during the budget process. Thank you, Trevor. During the budget process, council authorized the administration to begin really what turned out will be a 2-year initiative to put before voters a general obligation bond package of various projects like we did back in 2018, as well as 2014 and 2011. And in 2026, we'll continue with our Build Our Future in Broken Arrow initiative. And right now, we're still to determine exactly what the amount that we'll have available to take to the voters. But council's made it clear is that they want no change in the tax rate. So this will actually be no new taxes. This will be to continue the same tax rate that we currently have in place. So right now, we're trying to determine, and we will actually have an idea on what that will be probably sometime in August of this year, when we get our last assessed value before the actual vote in April of 2026. So I just want to mention that last year, based on council's authorization, we had meetings with all of our user groups, because we have about 9 or 10 user groups, which include your sports organizations, all of our community organizations, arts and humanities. So we had all those meetings, as well as meetings with the directors, and we began the survey process to determine how the city's doing, number one, and secondly, to start gathering input like we did last time for 2018 on what projects, initiatives such as roads, parks, city facilities, public safety, for example, that the citizens that responded would like to see in the next bond package, so we could start building concurrently with what we'd like to see from our user groups, those folks that are out there in our buildings and our complexes, what the directors who obviously are going to be responsible for implementing, who deal with the buildings, facilities, and infrastructure every day. And then also, most importantly, is what does the public like to see, because you want to build something that is supportive of everyone. And so we have that information. We're going to continue this year, throughout the year, as we talked about last time. Aaron gave a presentation about the results of the connectivity, which it rated very high in many areas of connectivity, like additional sidewalks, additional bikeways. Connectivity was number one. We'll continue to do surveys throughout the year, for example, in the areas of parks and recreation. Council specifically wants to get some additional data on what the public would think about a new community center in the southwest part of our community, specifically in Elam Park. There are also a lot of improvements for the parks and recreation, such we hear a lot about pickleball. I mean, we have a new indoor pickleball facility, but I do know a lot of folks want pickleball, so obviously there's an opportunity there. Dog park, for example, additional trails, and then there's also funds that are going to be needed to maintain the improvements that the council and other councils before you approved that we need to maintain, as well as our facilities. After we do Parks and Recreation, there could be possibly a survey on public safety. In terms of specific needs, for example, the public safety directors have recommended some improvements to the public safety training facility in order to ensure that our firefighters and police officers are doing the type of simulated live training that they're going to do when they actually get on scene. And so we're certainly going to present something like that to the council. Then there's also opportunities with the library. For example, the South Broken Arrow Library is one of the highly used libraries in all of Tulsa County. And obviously it's a super improvement for our community. And so there could be an opportunity for the city to partner with the Tulsa City County Library to help with the brand new library in South Broken Arrow. And there's many, many other needs that we have. And so there's going to be additional surveys. So all those are going to happen throughout the year, but I will say that probably right after the council says that we're going to adopt the budget, there will be a series of public meetings, workshops, where council will actually have the entire package of projects that we have put together for you to look at, and probably over a series of probably 2, if not 3, city council meetings, we will go through all those projects. Charlie Bright, on my behalf, and Kenny Schwab's behalf, will present all those projects to the city council by proposition: streets, parks, public safety, city facilities, and so forth, stormwater, and council will go through all those, and then you'll make a decision about what projects do you want to go to the public in a series of public forums, which will happen right after Labor Day, and there'll be at least 3 of those, possibly 4, throughout the community to invite the public in a Department of Transportation style public hearing after just a real simple opening about where we're at and what's happening. They can walk around and they can actually give their feedback on the projects being considered, and from there we'd move forward with actually finalizing what would be submitted to the public. So over the next I would say probably about the next 14 months, there'll be an item on the agenda for me or others on the administration to come in to give you an update and answer questions. And as we start to go out there, you'll have feedback, and the council will start getting questions that I want to make sure we answer for the public. So the public's going to have a great deal of participation. We have an internal committee that includes our partners at the chamber and the school district, for example, that will be assisting and making sure that they also have input on what's happening, and the citizens' input, just like last time, will be very important as well. But I'm super excited about this, and I know the council is too. It's a lot of heavy lifting, but you talk about the quality of life projects that the voters are going to get the opportunity to approve just in about 14 months. It's really exciting. So that's what I want to share with you tonight, and see if you had any questions. And just as you're out there engaging folks, if they bring up questions from the survey or something you'd like to see, I mean, just please bring that back and we can talk about it. Because obviously, council is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting, because the amount of projects and the cost of those projects is going to exceed what we're going to have. Even though I don't know the exact amount, I have a range, and I know that what we have is going to far exceed that. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions, because there's some great projects, as I understand. So that's all I have, Vice Mayor.
One question was, do you know about when that, the numbers that we're looking at, that we'll have that, what time of the year?
Yes, I anticipate that I will pass out the total package of projects to the council members about the same time with the budget.
Okay.
And so you all have it. You're going to need it probably for at least a month to 45 days in advance. It's being finalized right now. I need to go through it and make sure that I understand, and then I'm going to get together. It could be sooner than that, and then I've got to work out the schedules, because as you know, we usually have at least 1, if not 2, budget work sessions. So really the timing of when we do all this, we got to get the budgets first. We got to get the budget taken care of and get council's informal approval before we go to June to adopt the budget. But once we have that locked down, we'll have tentative dates, and then we're going to be promoting this, and so you're going to hear it for 14 times probably, because when we go to the quarterly meetings that we'll start doing probably either in March or April, this will be one of the topics that we'll be discussing and hopefully generate additional information. And I'll be asking staff to give some presentations about some of the projects that could possibly be considered, even though we won't know till probably December what council is going to approve officially. getting input from the citizens by these public forums, the surveys, is really going to drive everything into a final package that the council can submit to the voters in April of next year.
I will comment that I've been through a lot of bond issues here in the city of Broken Arrow, and the city manager here does an excellent job of making sure everybody is aware of what's going on. Not only the amount, making sure that the taxes are not going to increase, and even the selection process, he'll make sure everybody's involved. And I won't say the city council will be tired of it, but they'll be ready to move on and vote by the end of this time. So I think it's great, because so many people will be involved and so many people with knowledge. So,
The transparency is very important, and I do appreciate, because I know it takes a lot of time of your time and the staff's time, but
Right.
it is important, and it's important for our citizens. We need to know what they want, because they're voting on it. So that way, in 5 years, kind of like the amphitheater, it's like, well, that's what you voted for.
right.
That's what you wanted. So speak now, or you won't get to talk again for a while, I guess, till the next bond issue.
Yeah, I echo everything that's been said. It's critically important that we have input from our citizens on the things that we decide up here, what's in the best interest of the city. And I am grateful that you and your staff are doing the work now in advance, and not just waiting for those public meetings, putting out these surveys. That's why it's important that everyone who wants to have a voice go on the website, go on the Facebook page, and take these surveys, because those surveys are going to help shape the direction that we go on these bond packages.
Yeah.
So we're giving ample opportunity for the public to be involved, and it's very important that you are, so we can come back and present what needs to be presented.
Yep, okay.
I just want to add, we started a new segment about 3 weeks ago. It's called Drive BA. And for those of you that may not had a chance, the purpose of the Drive BA segment is to look in the rearview mirror about what projects we've completed, what projects we have going on right now, and what projects you're going to see down the road. And the whole purpose of that is for Kenny Schwab, our assistant city manager of operations, Charlie Bright, who is almost up every meeting, as well as myself and others, and eventually the council members will be a part of this, is to actually talk about projects, talk about the successes. In other words, voters gave us money in 2014 and we did these projects. And in 2018, we did these projects, because it's all about trust and building a sense of the confidence that whatever is put before the voters, that the city's going to complete it. And so that's the whole purpose of that, because it seems like no matter what the city posts, if we're going to be posting about adopt an animal, and there'll be one comment, a 75% chance there'll be a comment about a road, because that is the highest priority for our citizens. And so obviously that'll be what drives the package. So we'll be talking more about the different propositions that will be considered, plus some other opportunities that we'll have over the next few months leading up to the big meetings we'll have with the council.
I might say also that when the city manager came, one of the first things he told the council was that we have too many projects from bond issues in the past that's not getting done. And he changed the staff. He increased the staff. He did those things to get those things on the board and getting it done, because that was things that citizens had asked for, had voted for. And he wanted to make sure that they were done. So he does an excellent job at that. So it's enough bragging on him for a while. And we will certainly be, that bond issue will be prevalent in anything that we do go forward. Okay, any other comment?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item is item 7B.
Nope. 8.
Okay.
Item 8.
Item 8.
Item 8, citizens' opportunity to address the council. I knew it was citizens' opportunity to address the council, but I got the number wrong. Okay, we have one person that signed up to speak. If they will come forward, I see it as Leila Badgewell.
Yeah, Leila Badgewell.
Okay. If you'll come forward, you have 3 minutes, and we might tell you to start with that we can't take any votes on anything that got brought forward, but
Thank you.
forward.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and City Councilors. I am with the
ma'am.
BATE,
Okay.
a BATE of Oklahoma. ABATE is incorporated under the laws of Oklahoma as a motorcycle rights organization and is dedicated to preserving individual freedoms and promoting safety. Our mission of ABATE of Oklahoma is to promote and defend motorcyclist freedom, safety, and awareness education and legislations to make Oklahoma the best place to ride. We are coming to the councilors to submit a proposal for a watch for motorcycle signs. We have been working with the city council in Tulsa. We have gotten 9 signs. February 10th, we'll be unveiling the next 2 signs that are by the dealership on Peoria. I have sent the email and statistics to the mayor, Deborah Gempsey. We have also we've had meetings with Captain McCoy and Hurst about where they would like these signs put statistically all over Broken Arrow. New Orleans is a hot spot, Albany and Aspen. They've told us Kenosha and Aspen. They've had 2 motorcycle crashes there. Elm, they got blind spots over by 9th and Albany by Bass Pro. So I've had a lot of people bring us to us what they're wanting done in Broken Arrow, what we've done in Tulsa to at least promote safety of motorcycle riders. If you look at the statistics, that's 2021, and there was 30 of them in Broken Arrow alone. So we're just bringing that to you guys' awareness, showing you guys we're out there, and we would like these signs placed statistically all over Broken Arrow if we can get them up.
Is James Clark in your group?
James Clark was our president last year. We have it's been 2 years, so it's Rob Jones.
Okay.
I was a treasurer last year, but like I said, we've took new officers this year, so he is still part of our membership, some members and everything, but he's not on the board anymore.
So I did talk to James last year, several times, and he said that you all were going to get together and give us some ideas, but I'm glad that you're talking to the police department because they would have a good idea on where they need to go. And I know we can't take action on this item, but I would like to see us look at this in a deeper.
Can we give this to the staff and let them send out to the council the data and statistics?
What I suggest that we do is, since they've already Chief Arnold staff to find out what they would recommend, and our process in Broken Arrow for additional signage is that wherever the recommendation comes, whether it's a recommendation for a new sign or the removal of a sign or the upgrade of a sign, it goes through a traffic safety committee. And so the police department is a part of that process when needed. And so what we can do is Mr. Schwab heads that up along with the street department and the engineering and construction department. So what they can do, council, is they can look at the recommendations and the traffic committee will look at this and then I can approve it and then based on the type of sign and the location. And so what I can do is I can report back to you once I hear from them because I do believe this is something that's worthy of a strong consideration as well. And so we can work through that, and usually the Traffic Safety Committee meets within a month whenever they get a request. And so I can probably give you an update one way or the other sometime in March.
This is a picture of the sign that we've been getting put
Okay.
up and
Yeah.
on up there around Tulsa.
Okay. Yes, I think this is something, I'm glad you're already working with the police staff, but we'll just continue that, and,
Okay.
and you can meet Chief Arnold. I can introduce you to Chief Arnold in the
Okay.
back, and so you can make contact and then probably visit with his folks, and then once they have some recommendation, they can get with the Traffic Safety Committee folks, because they'll meet and they'll have a recommendation from me.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Before you step down, ma'am, are these signs purchased by your organization, or are they purchased by the city, or how does that work? at least in
Tulsa purchased ours for us. Now, I do have organizations and other biker organizations that are willing, to pitch in and pay. We do fundraisers, poker runs, toy runs, any type of runs that we need down, biker runs, child abuse, all that. We do all types of runs to raise our money and things. So if it's something that we need to pay for, we can get that taken care of. There are organizations and other companies that would fund us.
Do you have a general idea of how much those are?
I know in 2015, they were like around $215, $16.
Okay.
I am meeting with the mayor, like I said, in February 10th of Tulsa, and so I'm going to get some more prices of what they paid for them this last year.
Great.
If they wanted to partner with us and they wanted to pay for the initial signs, and then from that point forward, the city would take care of them if they need to be replaced. They're not that expensive. I didn't think they would, and I'm sure we can find those if that's what the recommendation is. So we can work out that detail if council's supportive of that.
Sure.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
guys.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to item 9, and we'll start with 9A. Lori? Now I get to tell you what to do.
That's right. Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Spurgeon. Before I start, I don't know if you've noticed somebody sitting in the audience behind me. We have one of our youth city councilors, Luke Beasley, that just decided he had nothing else he wanted to do tonight but other than come to a city council meeting. So I've told him that he will get a few service hours for sitting through this. So I always appreciate when our youth get involved in city government. So
Do we get service hours for sitting?
Yeah.
So the reason I'm here this evening is to start the discussions for the next legislative update. The Capitol Hill Day, when you all are in DC, will take place on Wednesday, March 12th. So what I've provided you is the copy of the 2024 version of the legislative agenda, and I've sent that out previously. And one of the suggestions that Councilor Ford had inquired about is she wants to make sure that the things that are in there are still relevant, and that's part of what we're doing this evening. Now, obviously, you don't have to give us any ideas tonight, but I would like to start the conversation so we can start working on those, because it is coming up quickly. But like for one example, Councilor Ford asked, is the supply chain issue still an issue? So I can get with staff and find out and get you some of those answers. But I would ask if you would please find some time over the next couple of days and look through that and see if there's anything you'd like to see us either update, remove, or anything we need to add. And I'll work with Aaron McCulloch and his team to get that updated. So.
Lori, can we also ask, like, the department heads, like, right, it says public safety, so could you get with the department
Absolutely.
heads, see if there's something that they would like for us to take, or,
Yep.
and the water too. Of
You
course,
bet.
we get money for that water filter that I've been wanting for 4 years. We'll see if we can do
You
that
bet.
too.
I'll make sure I send that out to the department heads tomorrow.
Perfect.
And just so they can also provide feedback.
Yeah, we wanted to start with the council like we did the last few years when we started this initiative. And so I would say is one of the things that's very important to me based on what happened a week ago today is the temporary, basically stoppage of funds. And as council knows, we have a $5.5 million grant for studying the reconfiguration of the Highway 51 corridor. Plus, we have, I would say, for sure, multiple STP, surface transportation grants that are an intricate part of completing some of the road projects, because it's just unbelievable that since 2020, the cost of road improvements, road widening specifically, has gone up about 60-some%. And so we've needed the grant funds to be able to complete projects because of the unanticipated cost of. I mean, we had factors worked into the cost from the time value of money from when it was approved by the voters. So obviously maintaining grant fundings. We have other small grants. We have a public safety grant for firefighters that is extremely important. And so I was going to ask that be somewhere in the list to make sure that what's already been approved for our community, as well as all other cities, still retain or remain, I should say, because we've already made plans and actually in some cases made hirings as a result of the commitments that were made to us.
And I know we're going in March and it doesn't give much time, but I was also wondering too if we should reach out to some of the congressmen's staff to see, because I know the first time that I went to DC as a counselor, we kept trying to get on or trying to get funding for certain road project, and I asked them why we kept getting turned down, and they asked if we ever attached a letter and like an endorsement like from their office, and I asked the council and they said they had never done that. So then when we did it, then we were able to move forward. So if there's anything that we need to bring with us besides just our little packet,
Certainly.
that would be good to know prior.
Absolutely. And I'll touch
base
base with you if you're
Okay.
available tomorrow, that we can kind of go through that. And yeah, we're happy to help equip you with whatever is needed to go meet with our legislators. And then if you'll also let me know, I know you all take packets of information and usually take like 5 to 10. So if you'll just let me know what quantities you want, and we'll make sure we get those taken care of for you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Item B. Item B, my favorite fire chief, if you'll come down. Everybody knows you're the only one, so.
You're my favorite vice mayor too, sir.
Okay, this item is consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the memorandum of understanding on Article 27 in the fiscal year 23 to 25 collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vice Mayor, councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. In November of this past year, the fire department implemented a program to train paramedics, and we put them on a 40-hour work week, and that led to a disagreement between the union and the city. And luckily, the great relationship we have with our union, we sat down and began to work through that. And so before you is the MOU that brings this settlement to this disagreement that we had. Included in that settlement is the 1.5% pay increase that would be effective July 1st of 2024, as well as an additional pay increase effective January 1, 2025. And then to resolve that disagreement specifically, bargaining unit members who obtain their paramedic license will have to attain the medical director's authorization. That's basically the permission of our doctor to operate on the ambulance. So they have to have his permission before they actually start receiving that pay. And then the city is also engaging in a program that we will offer a voluntary 40-hour work week to expedite them to get that permission from the doctor so that they can work quickly on the ambulances. All that was packaged together in this MOU that you have before you. The union membership voted on it last week and was very, very supportive of it. The union president also didn't have anything to do tonight, and he is here in support of this joint resolution as well. And happy that he's here in support of this. The first time I can recall in the last decade, our union president attending the meeting and working through this issue, and really excited to have him here in support of this. So I think we both jointly would recommend approval of this MOU, and we'd entertain any questions.
Does he have any comments that he wanted to make, or
Careful what you ask for.
since he's here? And don't be asking for a fire truck for the bond issue yet. We haven't
We'll do
started
that.
yet.
We'll do that at a future date. Again, my name is Justin Sharp. I'm currently the president of IFF Local 2551, representing the firefighters here. Mr. Vice Mayor, councilors, Mr. Spurgeon, do appreciate the opportunity to be here. We did have this opportunity, to reach an agreement. The firefighters do acknowledge that it's a little unorthodox to, in the middle of a contract period, come together and work for something that potentially does involve a pay increase in the middle of a contract. So I've only been here 13 years, but I'm unaware of that ever happening in the past. So we appreciate the opportunity greatly. It was an opportunity to find common ground on a difference of opinion on the front end. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd just like to say you have a great first name. Amazing, amazing. Must mean you're a great guy. But I've been able to observe some things over the few years I've been on council, and I heard a lot of things coming into council about our fire department and fire union and the relationships and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into all that, but I just think, one, it's tremendous to see how these two organizations are working together. Parts of the organization are working together to resolve things that need to be resolved. And it's my understanding we're probably having a lot fewer issues coming to the city manager's desk than we have in the past. So I appreciate you all working with each other and doing what's sometimes what's best and sometimes what's hard to make it right for our firefighters. And obviously, I think all of us up here, we support our first responders, and we appreciate what you guys do, and we're honored to be able to approve this.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you for coming up.
Anybody else?
Okay. Have any other questions of the chief?
No, I'll make a motion to approve item 25-153, or I guess I will second Counselor Green's motion.
Sorry.
He's quick tonight.
He is quick tonight.
There we go.
Okay. Item 9C.
It passed. He's like, where's that?
Just barely, though, chief.
Thank you all.
Okay, 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of authorization to execute a professional consultant agreement with CJC Architects Incorporated for the design of the new General Services Administration Building Project. Shannon Marshall.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, council members, Mr. Spurgeon. I'm Shannon Marshall, Special Projects Division Manager. Before you tonight, the item is for a professional design service contract with CJC, as you heard. And now this is referenced back to the department needs assessment and planning that was done back in 2022, and then the master plan that was approved by the governing body in 2023. The master plan showed rearranging some of the departments, in particular building and fleet maintenance, and then solid waste and recycling at the facility located at 1700 West Detroit, which has the fleet building. Purchasing is there at the Stark building. There's solid waste and recycling field team and crews there. So they already have a good amount of their department there with their field crews. So this project is to do a new small administration building, similar to the size of the Veterans Center. And this would bring their admin department, just like what it said, to that facility there so that Ryan and his team and then Jerry and their team can be there with the field crews at that point and be kind of a contact point for the public as purchasing meets with vendors. Solid waste and recycling has great public engagement there, and so this could be a new building front where it currently is the salt dome and the wooden fence there. This would be a new building there located to help control site access and be that opportunity. So this is a deviation from the master plan, but in talking with city leadership and Mr. Spurgeon, we think it's a betterment to the master plan by bringing the administration teams that are currently not on site to site to be within their departments. City staff is recommending to approve this, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions, council?
So you said it was going to limit access to the public, but then you also said that's...
Sorry.
Okay.
That's very confusing. I understand that. Limit access to the site. So right now there is a site gate there, but I mean, sometimes if it's left open and stuff, you can go in there, and there's very large vehicles there with salt trucks, the recycle trucks and trash trucks and everything like that. So having a building front so that people who are maybe going to meet with the purchasing department, as a vendor who's doesn't have to come all the way into that site with all those vehicles searching around there. They could come to the front, pretty much front office or front building that the administration would be at.
But I feel like that's a good plan because, I mean, not only do they fix the cars, you also can fill up with gas, and there's always moving vehicles of all sizes.
Right.
So
Yes.
I think it's
From a
great
safety
idea.
perspective, for sure.
Yeah.
And efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens to the space where they're currently officed?
What will happen? That's a great question. So other departments could come in and grow. The offices that are in the operations center, which is just down the road at 485 North Poplar, are great office spaces in general. And so definitely departments can grow and come in there. I know Parks is currently at a different space way down at Events Park. They might be able to come. I think it'd be up to city leadership, Kenny and Mr. Spurgeon, and of course you guys, if you see a need from another director for department needs, we can use the offices that they're in now for other departments.
I was just curious if it had already been planned.
No, actually, we haven't. It's kind of, everybody's kind of covered up on everybody right now,
Right.
quite honestly, and we've developed the space as much as you can from what it originally was, and so really, as the Councilor Ford said, the efficiency in the way that things lay out, plus the safety. And so actually, before there's any additional walls or changes, Kenny will make that decision on what's best for his department, where everybody should go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve item 25-158.
I'll second.
David, you're getting fast. That's good.
I know.
Okay, item D. That would be item 9D. Rocky?
Good evening again, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. Planned Unit Development 1893-2024 and rezoning BAZ 1891-2024 involves approximately 90 acres. This request is proposing to change the zoning on the property from A1 Ag to RS4 with PUD 1893-2024. On May 7th, 2024, the subject property was approved for a comprehensive plan change from level 6 to level 2, which allows RS4 single-family zoning. The requested zoning change is in association with the potential Aspen Creek Villas development, which proposes to create a single-family detached development with a maximum of 415 dwelling units. Just to give you some differences between the RS4 zoning and this PUD, under RS4, the gross land area would be 7,875 square feet. The PUD allows for 9,480 square feet. Under RS4, a maximum number of homes could be 498. The PUD will allow for 415. The minimum lot width under RS4 is 55 feet, and the minimum lot width under PUD is 52 feet. The minimum lot size under RS4 is 6,500 square feet, and with the PUD, they're asking for 6,000 square feet. Staff recommends that PUD 1893-2024 and BAZ 1891-2024 be approved, subject to the property being platted. And I believe the applicant is here to address any questions or concerns.
I had well, maybe a question of him. I'll go ahead and ask a question of him. If we could put up the, actually the one that shows all the houses on it. If we
Yeah,
put that up.
thanks, Vice Mayor. I was wanting to see it too. Been up there that far.
If you go in on that one. Or that one. Okay, and then I might ask you this question, Rocky, to start with. The problem that I'm seeing is that I only see two ways to get in and out, and that's a lot of cars going in and out. There might be small lots, small houses, but a lot of people have two cars. Unless they made it where they only had one car, and I didn't see that anywhere. But I know there's another one up to the top, point of ingress and egress back to the left. We don't know exactly what's going to be built there. We don't know what's going to go there, so that I don't really count it as of now. But that just shows 2 points of ingress and egress, which doesn't seem really, not only doesn't seem safe, but it doesn't seem like it's time beneficial for people getting in and out of there.
So we haven't gone through the engineering phase yet, so that's where we'd bring the fire marshal in. I wish he would have stayed. He could have answered some of these questions, but to make sure that they met the minimum requirements and the distance between the entrances. So we haven't got down to into the engineering phase yet. This is just a conceptual.
Okay, so this is a conceptual PUD then, is that correct?
Yes.
I still would really have problems with just 2 points of ingress and egress. No, not the fire marshal or anything, just people driving, a little bit of common sense driving in and out. It just seemed like there was no way to bring that better. I would at least like to see at least 3 points of ingress and egress. I think you've got 3 across the street in that subdivision if you get up to it. But okay, well, thank you very much. I just like to see that.
And Rocky, while you're here, I don't know if you can answer this question for me or not. What kind of, is there going to be like a fencing? I mean, I see trees between the houses and the highway, but would there be like fencing or?
Yeah, we would require fencing along the west side.
What
or
kind
the
of
east side.
fencing?
The opaque fence, 6-foot opaque fence.
Did you say on the east
On
side?
the east and the west, depending on how it develops, and on the north side as well.
Okay.
But the developers here, you can ask it.
Okay. Thank you, Rocky. Appreciate it. If the developer, come down.
Alan Betchen with AAB Engineering. So let's go with the fencing because that's an easier question. First off is, so the code does require screening and landscaping along the arterial. To the north, whenever you're along the Creek Turnpike, because of visibility, because of where it sits, usually it's just rear yard fencing for the individual lots, but there is a continuous fence, so it's not open space that ever goes out onto the turnpike. To the east, there's already screening, so that's a multifamily project that's coming to completion pretty close to it now to the east, and so there's screening built in native to that PUD. So you just have standard rear yards for residential lots to the east, and then we would meet the code to the west. From an access standpoint, this will meet the threshold for a TIA as required as part of the engineering plans and the development. So that will look at in greater detail, not just this, but also any requirements that may be necessary on to Tucson specifically. So let's say deceleration lanes or right turns into them. There's always kind of a precarious balance about number of access points and starting to interfere with the through movement of the street that's adjoining it. So there's a balance to be had there. Obviously meeting the needs of the development, but then also making sure that we're not interfering with what is a pretty principal arterial street. That would get studied at the time as part of the engineering development plans, and we come back with that. It's not, believe it or not, for that, it's not a crazy amount, because we would typically, yes, I would love to be able to get east or west with connectivity. There is a collector. This is something that, for the members of council that were here whenever we brought it in originally, there is a collector requirement that's in the comprehensive plan, an east-west collector that in theory goes all the way from Aspen to Olive. There's a dedicated right-of-way. The road wasn't built because it was in the middle of it. That was actually dedicated along the north side of the apartment complex. That isn't waived or modified by this PUD requirement or the request that we have in front of you, and it can be accommodated with not very much of a change. There's some question logistically that I think there's some philosophical, what is the right thing from a transportation standpoint whenever you look at how that corridor is developing versus what was originally in the comprehensive plan. But in the event that connectivity component from an east to west is still available as it develops. I stress the fact, and I say this every time, this isn't a thing where it gets approved and tomorrow you have 415 homes on there, or next year you have them, and then there's the build out after each of those failed. This is it's a little misleading in some of it, in that because we haven't ever platted, we're looking at this as a rezoning from ag to an RS4, but the underlying PUD that was previously approved and still sits there is a CH zoning with multifamily and a lot heavier density from a traffic standpoint than what we would be seeing from this. So this is actually a step back, which is what that comprehensive plan that the council considered and approved a few months ago supported. So we would respectfully request, I think this is trying to be very mindful of it. It's looking at trying to hit that workforce housing and a product that is attainable, which is really hard. You know, you heard staff tell you that road projects went up by 60%. We have a lot of roads. And so from 2020, we're seeing those same, and infrastructure translates directly into lot costs, which translates directly into availability of the housing. So this is really hitting that space, and there's places where it fits, which is why we asked for that comp plan amendment, and we feel like this is the right location for this type of product, and it's something that the PUD protects and gives you a product that you'll be proud of from a city standpoint.
Well, I think it's a good location. It's next to the expressway. You know what I mean? It's as dense as, and I don't know the exact dense, but as dense as apartment complexes would be, you know what I mean, in that area. I just feel sorry for anybody that go in there accidentally and then try to get out. I think maybe you need exit signs along the way.
We will certainly look at that, and that's something that TIA vets and looks at. There's always the balance that you don't want to create raceways through a neighborhood.
I realize that.
So we're trying to break those up, and the code is very specific with us about maximum block lengths and what we can't do. So there's a balance that we're always trying to strike in there, and it's a challenge whenever you have tracks that are this kind of depth relative to the frontages that we have, and there's not really any way to bust it up because the turnpike cut up what it cut up as it went through there. So this is something that I think definitely is something that I would say is very supportable from a council standpoint, and we hear those concerns, and we'll certainly work with staff as we bring plats forward and engineering documents. I mean, we're at step 2 of 6 kind of in a process, and I I just kind of, we take each one of them one at a time, and we listen to the feedback, and we see where we're at, and then we take the next steps.
Okay.
When you were talking about it being a multi-phase unit, what do you envision it being when you're starting that first home? And then how many will be in that first phase and second phase where it's 8 to 10 years down the road?
Right now, it's a 3-phase project is what they're anticipating. The first phase always ends up carrying a little bit of the extra burden because we need both of those entries originally. Like, we're not going to come in, even if we could, it's only 30 lots are available from a fire code standpoint, so you got to get both the entries. So you end up carrying a little bit more of a load in that first phase, so probably more like 130 lots is probably what it is. And then breaking up equally, being mindful of how it develops, as you move on from there. So it's probably about a 130 on the first phase is what they're looking at. There's a chance that, depending on absorption rates, you step it back and you look at 4 phases because you don't want the infrastructure sitting out there any longer than it needs. So there's a phasing concept that is a little bit evolving, I guess I would say, if that makes sense, because it's a big project. You just don't, if you have another 2020 where all the lots are gone really quick, then all of a sudden you're trying to get the second phase in faster than what we thought, but that's atypical. I would imagine at least 3, maybe 4. We're planning on 3 right now, is what they're currently considering.
And what is your goal for, let's start getting these houses put in there? I want to see houses going up.
So from today, we go through engineering. I wouldn't imagine that we're turning dirt on this project, and man, we would be killing it if it happened in 4 months. Realistically, starting to move dirt for infrastructure is probably 6 to 8 months from now. It's easily a 12-month construction process for infrastructure. So you're looking at 20 months before there's even a lot to start a single home on. And then you start the build-out process of building through 130 lots in the first phase. So you're looking at, I wouldn't think that phase 1 is built out in under 4 years. I mean, being realistic about it, subject to change based on market conditions. Like I stress that I don't think there's any world that we have lots on the ground and ready in less than 18 months. Just that would be the fastest project that I've hit it, and I've done a few.
So my segue into that, Mr. Spurgeon, would be, what is it looking like for that Tucson road between Aspen and Olive and those intersections? I waited till you took a bite for me to ask you that question as well.
Well, sometimes when you ask me a question, I have to ask you what time it is, I have to build you a clock.
Exactly right.
And so this really, I'm glad you asked me that question. So when we did the 2018 bond package, and Vice Mayor Parks will remember this, and the mayor would remember this. She was here. By the way, she's sick tonight and sends her regrets. We started with $311 million, and council said no change in the tax rate, so we could only do $210 million. Well, we left $100 million worth of projects we couldn't do, and we had to make some very tough decisions that ultimately council had to make. And one of them was the fact there were 3 or 4 roads that were hovering right at the edge that needed to be done. One of them was basically Omaha from Aspen to Elm Place, which is very important. And Tucson from Aspen to Olive was one of those roads that was right on the cut that just didn't make it. So really the development that was happening there, we knew the homes were some on the south, but since what's happened there plus what's happening obviously with the commercial development that we know is there and is coming. And so when I make my recommendation to the council, it will include widening that road and improving the intersection at Olive and Aspen for sure, okay? And I would recommend that if in fact council includes that one and the voters approve proposition number 1, that should be one of the first roads we sell. Because that was one where not only is there a reason for it because of the the residential growth, but also because of the commercial growth. And it would tie in perfectly because later this summer, we'll be starting on the intersection at Jasper and Aspen. And also there's a good possibility later this year we could be doing the intersection of Aspen and Tucson to get those knocked out before all the commercial development happens. And so it'd be a perfect segue into actually making that one of the first projects we sell in the fall of 2026. and then start the design process, and then it just takes several years by the time you do the design, the right-of-way, relocation, utilities, and the actual construction.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I would add to that, proceeding with the project gets the right-of-way acquisitions that otherwise would need to be made across the front of this property. Since our phase involves all the frontage, that gets donated up
Yes.
front whenever you plat it. So that's the entire strip of what otherwise would be needed for those improvements, getting dedicated at no cost or no acquisition needs to the city, which is, a boon for a project like that. Not that they wouldn't necessarily consider dedicating it anyways, but that's real.
I think we have a lot because of the projects on both sides of the road.
Yeah.
That's something we're requiring in order to anticipate where we're going to need improvement. So I believe it'll go quickly, but still can't guarantee that there's not going to be a hiccup or two.
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Wright, have anything to add to that?
Did you have something to add?
He did an excellent job.
You did a good job.
I can, you want me to?
If, yeah,
Okay.
please come down here. We got residents that may be able to answer a question. I would say, Vice Mayor.
Right. Okay, do you have any comments, or you want to wait and listen to the citizens first?
I'm happy to wait, so.
Okay? Well, listen to the citizens. Any other questions here?
Good.
Okay, we have 5 people that have signed up. 3 of them did not want to speak, but they were in opposition. So we have 2 that would like to speak, and I would ask that they come down. James Mitchell, please. Come down. You'll have 3 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is James Mitchell. I am a homeowner just to the south of this development. I really think that the Planning Commission has put this board and the City of Broken Arrow in a tough spot. Not only have they approved an RS4 district that has the smallest size lots for single-family detached dwellings, but also they approved a PUD further reducing these lot sizes to fit even more homes. And they did this on a 2-lane road with a stop sign. The only other RS4 district on a 2-lane road with a 4-way stop sign in the City of Broken Arrow is at Jasper, 131st, and Olive. So the other one in question here will be Olive and Tucson. Both of them are in the same mile. So this congestion is just going to compile upon itself. Both of those stop signs already get congested, and adding 415 homes will further exacerbate this problem. There are still homes that need to be built to the south. They have not completed those homes yet. There are still the apartments that are newly built to the east of here is not fully filled up yet, so the congestion is going to get worse. Like you said, Tucson is supposed to be in the bond package coming up. However, if the voters decide to vote it down, we're stuck. We're stuck with the traffic, stuck with the congestion, with no remedy in place. Maybe they'll vote for it, who knows? But like everyone has kind of talked about, the construction is going to take years. At the very earliest, 2030, if everything goes perfect, would be the first time anyone would be able to drive on an expanded Tucson. If he's doing these phases, traffic is going to be horrible by 2030. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think that we should do this the right order, wait for the bond package to be approved by voters. It'd be better for the residents who live there and for future residents. Yeah, I think that summarizes what I needed to say. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I did talk to Mr. Mitchell today on the phone, and we had talked about, I told him that we do a traffic study. And I don't know if the traffic study has been done at this point or if it's done at a later time. But I told him that a traffic study would be done before they could.
We will require that, but Mr. Wright may be able to talk about what we have right now.
Okay, so I told him we'd bring that up, so maybe that would be helpful as well.
The problem with some traffic studies, and I don't know what kind they're going to do, is counting cars does not account for stop signs and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Any other questions?
No.
I do ask that you do not approve this, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Steve Arledge,
Good evening, Vice Mayor, City Councilors, Mr. Spurgeon. I am Steve Arledge. I am representing the Riverstone Estates Homeowners Association in regards to 25146. And we would like for you to not approve this due to many things. We are directly south of this proposed 415 home development, and we are in our development. We're going to be looking at that 2-lane road as well. We sit directly south of this development, which will significantly impact an already strained infrastructure. This stretch of 121st or Tucson Street between Aspen and Olive is already a single-lane road, which you know, with no shoulder. We would like for this to be taken care of before this is approved, in that being put into a multi-lane road on either direction so that we can do that more efficiently and effectively move traffic. The new developments to the north of Tucson, there are more vehicles are going to be forced to cross in that 2-lane road, which is already congested to begin with. Beyond traffic, this development will place an overwhelming burden on our local schools, particularly Aspen Creek Elementary, and it is already reported to be at capacity without a clear address to the new influx of students that is going to be coming from this new addition to that school. We are not opposing the growth. We're asking for responsible planning. So in that, we would love for you guys to delay this addition to our building in that growth. So on behalf of the families of the Riverstone Estates, I would like to respectfully ask that you deny this addition at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Bryant, comment?
Yeah, I think just based off, well, good evening first to Vice Mayor, council members, Mr. Spurgeon. My name's Charlie Bright. I'm the Director of Engineering and Construction for the city. Just to address the comment or question I heard earlier, a couple other things. So one, the project Mr. Spurgeon spoke with, I mean, before this ever came up, Mr. Spurgeon had told myself and my team about the priority of this corridor and this intersection. We already knew of issues at the intersection itself at Olive, because obviously we have turn movement issues there for semi trucks and other things. So it's been on the radar for my team for past several months that we need to get the project started. One thing I've already discussed with leadership is with anticipation that's going to be on the next bond. I actually am working on sending out a proposal for design on this road within the next month. So well before the next bond, we're going to start design of improvements of this road. I think this council will see a contract for design. I mean, it'll take us a month or so to get through the proposals, a month or so to negotiate. But the next 2 or 3 months, this council will probably see a contract come to start design on this project. So our goal from my department's perspective is to be as ready as we can for construction if and when the bond passes in 2026, to get it to construction as fast as possible. And we're going to get us as far as we can at that time. As far as traffic's concerned, I think I've heard you guys ask, obviously, like the applicant said, they'll have to do a traffic impact analysis. You know, that's not my team's job, that's the applicant's job. Just because I know you guys asked, we did look at it, just to give you a very preliminary look. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to do a traffic impact analysis, and they'll have to go through an engineering phase. And when they go through that engineering phase, that's our staff's opportunity, Rocky's staff opportunity, obviously, and then your guys' opportunity to say, hey, we need to make these improvements to that are going to come to the development. But from our perspective, so you have a preliminary look at it. NCOG's numbers say that there's about 7,000 vehicles per day over by the Olive Street, and it gets a little bit higher as you come to Aspen Street, and that's just because of the split traffic and people that live in that area. We've checked replica, which is the data that we gather for what we think the average is over a year, and we're between 7,000 and 8,000 vehicles per day. That is getting high, and this development would increase those trips. It would get you closer to the capacity of that road if this development were fully built out. But I think as the applicant said in their phased approach, and then us working towards construction, they're not going to be fully built out. I don't know what their timeline is, and I won't speak for their timeline, but, it's not like you're going to have this neighborhood fully built out before we get to our roadways, So happy to answer any other questions or details you guys have.
What would you say the best case scenario is to have this road widened? If it's approved on the 26th bond?
That's a great question, and as Mr. Spurgeon definitely knows, and you guys probably know, I'm really hesitant to say that because there's a lot of factors in road development that we don't control. At the end of the day, I can get the design done. I'll have all of the design done before we vote for the bond. The design will be done, and that's something I can control. The hard part becomes acquiring right-of-way and moving utilities. We will work with our team to have those done as soon as possible. One of the issues will be funding. Do I have the funding to buy right-of-way before the bond or after? We'll work with the team, see if we can come up with right-of-way money. But if you had to put me on a spot, let's say best case scenario, we're going to design, hopefully be done by design this time next year. We start acquiring a right-of-way a few months, 2026, moving utilities maybe by the end of 2026. So I would say best, and again, I don't want anybody leaving saying we're going to be in construction in 2027, but I would say 2027 is best case scenario. More than likely a little later than that.
Okay.
Happy to answer any other questions if you guys have them.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
I'd just say this is actually, it's a better conversation than we normally have to have, if I'm going to be really honest about traffic, because there's a plan and an executable way to get to the other side of it. I mean, so often, with all due respect to the speaker, that we have 2-lane roads, and that's where development is. It's on the periphery of town because infill isn't really available to us that much anymore. So I agree with Mr. Bright about the capacity of the street, and yes, a full build out, we're pushing the capacity of the street, but that's practically impossible from a development standpoint for us to get there in the timelines that you're looking at with the road. This project actually furthers the ability of the road to execute the end goal, which is the road needs to be improved. We know that it was previously supported by councils to a bond package, and it just, through a number of reasons out of everybody's control, it just didn't make the cut. There were higher priorities. So now you have the bubble project ready to go, and for once, there's actually money there to get ahead of it even before it's fully funded for construction. So it becomes a good opportunity, and this is a way, if nothing else, from a council standpoint. I know you've had those conversations just looking for right-of-way, to know that the right-of-way for a half mile of the abutting properties is dedicated, in place, and ready to go by the project. So that's an acquisition that doesn't have to happen. That in and of itself is a boon for a development and a project. Growth is always painful. That's just a reality to it, and it's these very types of projects that create the tax revenue that allows the projects that need to happen to go. This is the right area, and to be very honest with you, there's not a lot of places where we can go and pursue a project of this scope with this configuration, that it is right, that it is good because of what I'm abutting and where we're in the right spot. There's just not many of those left in town. That infrastructure is there to support it. This is one where it is, and it's something that I think the council should be able to get behind, because this is one that is truly thought out.
I need you to look in your crystal ball for me.
Yeah.
And, with Mr. Bright talking about 2027, pie in the sky, where would you be at when it comes to houses in 2027?
Man, if realistically, if there is a house that's up for sale at that point, we would be moving unbelievably quickly through the process of what we do. Like, I mean, literally a house that's made it through the construction process at that point. That would be a blazing fast subdivision from a development from where we stand today through plating, through TIA, through engineering, through infrastructure installation, through final plat, and then constructing a house. That's less than 2 years. Man, my standard answer to a developer is I can give you lots in about 2 years. That's not finished houses. Does that make, I mean, literally that's the answer of what, whenever they come in, it takes us a couple of years to get you to the place where you can build a house.
And do you have an idea? I mean, I know there's a lot of factors here, but I'm also thinking about, there is such a need in Broken Arrow for affordable housing, especially for maybe starter homes, young homes, those types of things. Is there an idea of a price point?
I caution this as the same statement of everybody else of I made too many statements in 2020 and then in 2022 everybody's like, you said, and I was like, I didn't anticipate this, just to be really honest with you. It's really, really hard to get down to the 300 for a house price today, just a new construction single family. I think these are going to be in the low 300s is going to be where they land. But that is really, really, like, that is about as low as you can get in entry, in starter house. I mean, just that's the lot cost, if you do the math on it, doesn't allow you to get much less than that. So I don't see this being anything less than, and I think I'm stretching to say that they're going to get one that's in the 300 to get you at 300. You're going to probably be in the mid threes by the time this develops. And that's realistically what you're going to see. I wish, as much as everybody sometimes complains that, hey, we don't want inexpensive housing, I wish we could find places that we can get it down, but just construction costs what they are and minimum square footages that people want, it's hard to get under.
Can we clarify for the residents that spoke, when you do the traffic study, because one of the concerns when I spoke to him today on the phone was it just does a car count. It doesn't like do a stacking count. But can you kind of let him know what all it will encompass, the traffic study?
Yeah, absolutely. So full disclosure, we third party that. We don't do the counts ourselves. So I mean, I'm not the engineer that signs that traffic study. We do, I'd understand it. But so it will be counts. One of the things that we go through whenever we first start a traffic study is we work with staff to define the scope of that study. So what is the limits of what you want us to look at? What is the concerns? So hearing what it is, I'm quite certain that staff would come back and say, hey, we want you to look at the intersection of what you're looking at and then look at any capacity analysis in between it. That is looking at counts on the intersection as it's there today. It's actually goes through, there's pretty elaborate timing programs that look through, okay, look what my trip and how it actually takes to go through the synchro models on the intersections, and then project out today plus the population plus growth on normal traffic growth, right, on that corridor, because whether this happened or not, there's going to be additional cars in that corridor in 5 years. Like there's a natural projection of growth. That all gets looked at, and I'm certain that it'll come back that we would look at least, I would at least Aspen and probably all of to see how that affects. And because there's places where it may not be the midsection, it may be, hey, to alleviate the issues in the short term, if you came and did some, and this is a horrible term, some scaffold lane work at the intersection to help improve capacity for right turn movements or something like that, that's the right thing to do. And asking the development to go participate in that is how we understand that, and that's a requirement of it. So there's opportunities for us to partner with the city to maybe do a little bit of that work ahead of time and leverage some of the private development dollars to get that done too. There's always limits to how much anything can hold, but that's the reality of it. So it's more than I just count cars and we know how many is out there. There is an analysis that goes along with that.
I think the last traffic study I read was like 40 pages long. I mean, so I knew it was very
you didn't
in-depth,
read one with an intersection in it because it's a lot more than 40 when we do intersection counts. It's a lot more.
Well, thank you. Hopefully that will help them too. And I know we don't know how the next bond issue is going to go, but we do know that this road has been voted on before by the voters. So I feel pretty confident it'll be voted on again. And you have said that that'll be one of the first projects that we do when the bond gets approved. So hopefully with knowing all of that, maybe it'll put the residents at ease some if this does pass.
Well, you go back in the history of Broken Arrow's bond package history and meet with Russell Peterson, who has been from the beginning of them, and they used to be 90-some% streets, and there's never been a road package that's ever failed in Broken Arrow. Kenny can correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, the only last one that passed was an increase in the tourism tax in 2014. And so there's a high probability, but we got to work like it's not going to pass with public education. But this road needs to be done. Now, I will say is that at the Aspen, I've asked Kenny and Charlie is to go ahead and start the work to redesign that to be a fully functioning intersection. And so hopefully within the next year, if you're traveling east to get to the creek right there, where all the commercial is going to be, that's going to be a fully functioning intersection. You'll be able to go straight, turn left, and turn right. That's going to be taken care of. The issue with regard to any delays in stopping is going to happen at Olive and Aspen until such time as we can get the intersection completed. And right now we've looked at possibly some STP grants because there needs to be something done about Olive because truck travel that goes into that area. And so we're looking at all the options of trying to address. Even one of our senators has concerns about that area, and so there could be opportunities to try to move that along. But we're trying to move this as quickly as we can because it just didn't make the cut because we only had so much, and there were other priorities. And for example, that's what we're doing at Olive in Washington. 2 miles were approved from 81st to 101st. The problem with the stacking is it's not that the 2-lane doesn't work. It's because the intersection at Lynn Lane in Washington doesn't have left turn lanes. And so once we install that in about less than a year, hopefully, then the 2-lane road will work effectively until we can widen the road, get a permission from the railroad tracks, the road company, I should say, then do the widening. And so we're moving on as quickly as we can, and we feel this will be a project that the voters would support.
Well, I'm sure when you decided to pause this project, there wasn't the growth like we have now either. So there were more important projects that already had the growth and that we need to take care of as well.
So just to clarify, what you're saying is like with the improvement in the intersections that you're discussing, that's going to help with that traffic flow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Going back to the east towards the Warren Theater to Aspen, that's going to address that area because one of the biggest problems you have with your stacking is the intersections. And if they're fully functional to where you have a queue for people to turn right and you're left, sometimes even left 2 left turn lanes, you're going to be able to move traffic no matter how deep it is. People are going to be able to get to it and get through it in a timely fashion. And so that's the ultimate goal is to actually get the road widened. But until sometimes we've looked at this, as council heard back in October, there are other ways than just going automatically to a 5-lane road. Sometimes it can be effective with a 3-lane road if you have a fully functioning intersection. Perfect example of a fully functioning intersection would be Kenosha and Elm Place, where you have right turn lanes, 2 going right, 2 going left, something along the line. Then you have the stacking movements is not really relevant unless it's some kind of function where you have a lot of cars, but a normal traffic can handle. And we talked for 2 hours about that back in October of changing our philosophy because of the cost of road improvements to be able to improve the intersections in some cases first. And so that would address that. Now, it doesn't address Olive, but if we need to, and we even talked about you could even go in and do that intersection at Olive first, you get that taken care of, then come back in phase like we're doing on Aspen from Tucson all the way down to Indian Springs. Because we're doing Jasper, we're doing the intersection of Jasper first, then we're coming back to do the actual road improvements because we have a grant for this one. So it's a lot of movement. The best way to move cars is addressing intersections.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's the council's pleasure.
I see no motions. I see no motions, Mr. Vice Mayor.
No motions? I'd make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Two to two, motion was denied.
Correct.
Motion was denied, 2-2. So we will move on to item 9E.
Good evening again. The applicant is proposing to rezone this property from ARE to RE. The property owner has applied for a lot split, lot 1811-2024, and intends to build a second single-family detached house. The area that this property is located in is semi-rural, and no sidewalks exist in the area today. Upon building permits being issued for any structure, sidewalks will be required along the 96th Street frontage. The applicant requests a modification to section 4.1 of the Land Subdivision Code and waive the sidewalk requirement along 96th Street frontage. Staff recommends approval to modifying section 4.1 of the Land Subdivision Code for the proposed construction of a single-family detached house per Planning Commission recommendation.
Have questions of Rocky?
No, sir.
Okay. No questions?
Do you have anyone to speak?
No one signed up to speak. Is the applicant here? Usually we just, if they,
She is here.
do you want to speak, the applicant? You're welcome to speak. I think they wanted to hear you speak if you wanted to.
I just didn't know if anybody signed up to speak
I know.
for
Sign
or
it forward or
against it.
against, yeah.
Heard you.
Did they, at the planning commission, I mean, I guess I can open it up. How did it, the planning commission all unanimously vote?
Unanimous.
Right,
And did anyone speak for or against it there?
right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve 25-181.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, the item passed.
Discussion. Oh, yeah.
No, they haven't.
Is that being
There we go.
denied for a year unless they waive it? Yeah, that's right. And so when they come back with straight zoning.
Item passed.
4-0.
Right, because it's the PUD. That's correct.
Did you hear that it did pass? If you had spoke, I don't know if it had gotten any better than that, but, okay, 9E,
9F.
So, yeah.
F.
So this item is related to the previous item. So this is a zoning request, BAZ 1900-2024, to request a zoning designation of 2.62 acres from ARE, Annex Residential Estate, to RE Residential Estate. The property owner has applied for a lot split, lot 1811-2024, and intends to build a second single-family detached house. A variance to the subdivision regulations for a sidewalk waiver for the proposed construction has been submitted and was just previously passed. The subject property is Comprehensive Plan Level 1, which supports rezoning to RE. ARE is a transitional zoning district which is required to be rezoned to the appropriate zoning district before any development can be done. When Lot 1811-2024 was submitted, this triggered the requirement for the property to be zoned to the permanent zoning district. Planning Commission voted in approval 5-0, and staff approves BAZ 1900-2024 per Planning Commission, and staff recommendation and plating be waived.
Okay. And again, no one signed up to speak to this item.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve 25, oh,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll second, or did you make a motion?
I
Okay,
did.
I'll make the motion for it to pass.
I'll
I
second
didn't
that
want to
motion.
hog, just trying to move this along.
Okay, the item passed 4-0. Okay, there are no preview ordinances, there are no ordinances, remarks and inquiries by governing body.
No, sir.
I had one comment just to an item on the consent agenda. I started to pull it off. I thought, well, I didn't want to drag it around, but the Central Park and the Rose District the Rose Garden that's being built there. That's been years in the making with several different organizations. The city voted tonight to run electric. It's a pretty big bill to run electric out to the center of it to make sure there's electric for everything at the, I call it the Rose Garden, but the garden center. So that's at the central park that we voted that in tonight.
It's gonna be really nice. It's gonna be really nice.
Yeah. Can't wait for the overground, ribbon cutting.
I know. Well, you got all the roses downtown, too. Okay, no one comment? Okay, remarks and updates by the city manager.
Quickly, just a few things so we can move on is, on behalf of the council, I just want to thank James for a great event at the gala, for the chamber gala last Saturday night, and to congratulate all of the businesses and the individuals, including our Councilor Pickle. I get that when I say those two together, I think Pickleman's is one of my favorite places to get a sandwich. So congratulations, Counselor. It was very well deserved. I mean, you won several awards with the chamber the last couple of years, and I've been there for when you've received those, and you deserved every one of them. So congratulations on behalf of the administration, and just thank the great team from the chamber on the event they had, and how it was well put on. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement. I want to mention Mr. Stevens, Assistant City Manager of Administration, is not here tonight because he is at the special meeting that the Wagner County Commissioners agreed to hold as a result of being here 2 weeks ago. Norm let me know that there's approximately 50 people that are there listening to the discussion on what's going on, and so I just want to let you know that's why he was not there, and that we want to make sure, and that he's going to send an update to myself and the council members on his takeaways from the meeting, so council will know. And I was very pleased to let you know that also with regard to the county, Wagner County, there's a portion of a mile stretch on 81st out where, and basically an area that's where part was in the city and not within the county, that's in pretty poor shape. And so the mayor and I and Kenny Schwab are going to go to Wagner County Commission meeting pretty soon to talk about partnering with them to try to get it in good condition. And so they could actually dedicate it to us if council would take it, because it needs to be taken care of. And obviously, it's just better suited for us if they will make some improvements to the stormwater and to the road itself. So I want to let the council know that. And also, final two things is we're working with the Muskogee Creek Nation. Is one for the mayor and the vice mayor and I to get a meeting with the chief and a second chief just to talk about one thing in particular about projects we're doing, so they could see if there was funding that we could partner together on projects. And we're working on the next meeting with the National Council. And we're going to be going to Okmulgee for those meetings, and we're probably looking at sometime late April, I think is what we're looking at. So Lori's working on it, but we're working on that. They're excited about it, getting with us together, and we're coming down this time.
Good.
So that's what's happening. That's all I have.
Okay, I would like to entertain a motion that we go into recess. We have 2 meetings after this. We have executive session from this meeting. We'll recess and go and take care of our Bama and Beta meetings. If we can get that motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
We already knocked
We already.
it out.
Oh, well, there you go. I'll vote on it.
Excuse me, council, this is not a vote cast item.
No, this is,
Yeah, I have to do a voice vote. So
Okay.
who made the second?
Award-winning David Pickle.
Award-winning.
Pickle,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Parks.
yes. Okay, I would call the Bama meeting to order and have roll call.
Excuse me. Pickle,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Ford,
Here?
Parks,
Here.
Wimpy.
Okay, we have a consideration of the consent agenda,
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
so there's no items to be removed. We have a motion.
We already got a motion, so I guess not.
You guys are ready to go home, huh?
You guys are faster than I am, so there you go.
And it did pass. Any remarks and comments by the governing body in Bama? None. Remarks and updates by the city manager?
No, sir.
None. No executive session. One other motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. And second? And it did pass. I'd like to call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority to order. Have a roll call vote.
Ford,
Here.
Parks,
Yes, here.
Green,
Here.
Pickle.
Here.
Okay.
Shaking it up.
Consideration of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as it stands.
Second?
Motion second to accept as stands. No items removed. No appeals, presentation, or recognitions. General authority business. Remarks and inquiries by governing body. Remarks and updates with the city manager and staff.
None, sir.
Well, you always have something to say. No executive session. One other motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. I will.
Okay, if we'll have a short recess and empty the room for executive session. I have a motion.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Made a motion and a second.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't catch who made the motion.
Green made the motion.
Green made the
to
motion.
Go into recess to
Lisa
the
made
room
the
for
second.
executive session.
Okay. Pickle,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Parks.
Yes.